Izzy, did you hear the good news?
Yeah, whoa. I heard good news. Which news are you talking about?
Oh, man, the great news. They announced that Michael Jordan is going to be part of NBC's NBA coverage starting next season. I'm so psyched. I'm so pumped. The greatest of all time, man. He's the greatest player, the greatest shoe salesman, the greatest underwear salesman, greatest Gatorade salesman, sports drink salesman. Of course,
he's the greatest jerk of all time, too, because you know why he's doing this?
Oh.
Probably going to be LeBron's last year. He's only going to do LeBron games, be critical of LeBron, and say, you're not the GOAT. I am. Get out of here. That's what he's there for.
First of all, not a jerk. I'm sorry, because the guy's a little driven about success. I wish everyone had that attitude. Second of all, I mean, they hired him to give fair and accurate analysis. They're asking who the greatest player of all time is. What's he going to do? He's going to be humble then? No, he's got to do his job. He's got to say the fair and accurate analysis. We all saw
The Last Dance, and we all know what his job is. It's to be a jerk to other guys who play basketball.
Welcome to Oddball. I'm Amin Elhassan. That's Izzy Gutierrez. What a fun weekend of playoff basketball that we're just coming off of. But guess what, guys? We're not a look back kind of place. We're a look forward kind of place. We're spinning forward. And the way we're spinning forward is tonight's game, the biggest must-win game in the last 25 years of New York Knicks basketball.
What's the biggest must-win game for the Knicks before this one?
That they won, or just it was a
just
must-win
going
game?
Into it, must win at this level, second round or deeper, right? Because that's what it's got to be.
So the last one that they won was Game 7, 2000 Eastern Conference semifinals against the Miami Heat. That is the Clarence Weatherspoon jump shot. That is Sprewell grabbing the rebound and tiptoeing on the baseline, calling the timeout. That is the Tim Hardaway calling Nick Pavetta after the game. That's the last one they won. The last one they lost was Game 6 of the Eastern Conference Finals to the Pacers in that same year, 2000. So easily, there has not been a game this big in the last 25 years. Because the reason we're saying this, Izzy, of course, is because the Celtics won Game 3 at the Garden. They won kind of handily, too, which means 3 of these games, the Celtics kind of had time to whoop up on the Knicks. Now, they blew 2 of those leads, but Game 3, they didn't. They held on. So if the Knicks lose tonight, right, and the series ends up 2-2, will the Knicks have lost momentum completely, and will this have been the biggest blow, chokehold, whatever you want to call it?
Yeah. I mean, I know you remember when the Heat went up 3-0 on the Celtics, and what was their whole thing? Don't let us get one.
Win one,
they started too early. Like, the Knicks needed to go up 3-0 at the very least, and if they lose this one and go 2-2, I think it's a Celtics series. I'll take my chances on that. Look, I think we saw the Celtics shoot poorly in the first game for sure, the first couple of games. In this last game, 19 of their 40 attempts wide open. So Knicks defense, I know your plan wasn't just, hey, we hope they shoot bad the rest of the series. So the idea that the Knicks are getting a little bit more comfortable here, the Celtics are getting more comfortable here, understand maybe a little bit more certain where their shots are coming from, then yes, I think they figured out they can recover from this because, of course, remember, they did get 1, 2, and 3 against the Heat. They forced a Game 7 in that series. So 2-0 is nothing really to write home about just yet.
Yeah, I mean, I just think, look, here's the deal. You look at it, they shot 25%. 25 of 100 in the first 2 games, right? And in both of those first 2 games, they had 20-point leads, right? So to me, this wasn't a case of, hey, the 3-point shooting. They shot well enough, even at 25%, to have easily won at least one, if not both of those games at home. They did it because they acted like robots. They didn't adjust their shot selection, and they didn't change anything. Well, Game 3, they made a lot of those shots. They didn't really adjust that much either. 19 of the 40 attempts, as you said, were wide open, right? Were as per NBA.com data. I know, like Tim Legler last week had his whole diatribe, which he is correct. Sometimes the optical tracking data calls stuff wide open that isn't quite wide open. I watched every single attempt they had. I rewatched it today, right before we did this. Look, if it's not 19, it's damn close.
Yeah.
The Knicks defense seemingly is, well, I hope they miss, because there's a lot of help and rotation, and then there's not a tertiary rotation on the back end to pick up on helping the helper. And so the Celtics were getting, the same caliber shots that they got in games 1 and 2, but they made them the difference there. I hold to these guns. If the Celtics had adjusted their 3-point diet even slightly in either one of those games in Boston, they would have won those games. They didn't. Now, as luck would have it, they made their shots in New York, so they didn't have to adjust. But I wonder, had they had the same kind of cold spell midway through, would we have seen another redux of the Knicks come back and win another game?
I think you just made up a phrase there. I hold to these guns.
Yes, these guns I hold. I watched Shooting Guards on Netflix this weekend, but sue me. Shout out to Gilbert Arenas.
What's going on with Kristaps Porzingis? He, to me, is the guy that makes the Celtics, puts them over the top as the unique team, the team that, hey, yeah, we could shoot a bunch of threes, but don't start switching everything because we'll just light you up with big man in the middle. He's such an unlocker for their, that's a phrase, name that just, word I just made up, for their offense that changes everything. The stuff that Joe Mazzulla is being criticized for not switching to, which is anything. Kristaps Porzingis gives you a little bit more of that variety, but yet he's got some illness that we don't understand. What's going on? 19 minutes in game 3.
Yeah, for sure. Like, look, it changes the math. Again, the more talented people you have on the floor, the less all this strategy matters, right? Up to a certain point, right? And we talked about this before the series, the tail of the tape. If you remember, the Celtics have a better offense. They have a better defense. They're deeper. They
Duncan density.
They shoot threes, like everything they had on their side, except if this thing is close, then I don't trust them, right? And so basically they have to maintain that spread. Having Porzingis out there definitely helps. What's going on with him is a great question because we live in a gambling society now. Right. So it's not, you can't be like cute and be like, oh, he's okay. Like if there's something wrong with him, it needs to be disclosed and it needs to be out in the open, not for strategy purposes. Not so Tom Thibodeau has a better time doing his job, but because there are people putting a lot of money on the gambling side of this game, and the gamblers deserve to have upfront and transparent information on that regard.
This other question I'm about to ask you, and I feel like this is just an interview now, but OG Anunoby. OG Anunoby, game 1 was huge.
Yeah.
46 minutes in the overtime game. Minutes have dwindled. The last game, I think 1 field goal. Like every time I watch him regularly, like multiple games, he feels like the one Nick who doesn't really fit in. He's just got to find a way to get his when he can. And I don't know if you can rely on that for consistency. Like you can't have him go for 2 points in 31 minutes. Like he's got to be a viable option for you.
I think like during these playoffs, he has fit in. Now in the last couple of games, you're right. It's kind of dwindling. And to be honest, Izzy, I attribute it to the guy's expending a lot of energy guarding 2 really good players. Look, we can make jokes about Tatum all we want, and many of them are true. But the reality is, he's still a real tough person to guard. It's a tough task to guard him. It expends a lot of energy. It's a lot of chasing around. It's a lot of drive and kick, and then now obviously he has the size. So when he does decide, I'm going to take it to the rim, that's no walk in the park either. And so I look at Anunoby and I'm like, yeah, that's a guy who's tired of chasing these dudes around. It's the old line from Airplane where the kid says, "Oh, Kareem doesn't try hard enough." And Kareem turns to the kid and says, "You tell your old man to drag Walton and Lanier up and down the floor for 48 minutes, then come talk to me." Like that's what Anunoby's saying to you right now. Is you tell Izzy to come drag Brown and Tatum up and down the floor for 48 minutes and then come talk to me.
I mean, Tatum got 22, 9, and 7 with a couple of steals. And OG, I mean, if you're going to tell me he was tired for all 31 minutes because that 1 for 6 with 2 rebounds, I mean, that's just awful. And so I don't know if that's a Jalen Brunson responsibility on offense, but whether he's tired or not, like 31 minutes, that wasn't 41 minutes. It wasn't 46. I mean, maybe it's an accumulation over the course of the playoffs, but I'm not going with tired as an excuse. I'm not greenlighting that excuse.
I mean, I think it's a fair one. Again, he's not a main offensive cog in this machine. Whatever he scores, and he does tend to score in these playoffs, but it's like, that's gravy to me. The people that you depend on, you rely on, it's like, you got to give me these points every single night. Jalen Brunson and Karl Anthony Towns, who got hurt during the game. He had this say after the game when asked about it, this hand injury, quote, "It is what it is. I just want to do whatever I can to be out there." When asked, Towns declined to elaborate on whether or not he got an x-ray or any other imaging on the hand. So, Izzy, clearly that's not the answer. Someone saying I'm fine. It's like, whatever it takes, I'll do out there. I'll be like that knight from Monty Python's Life of Brian or whatever, right? Like, jumping around on one leg, right?
Can't say I saw that one.
Oh, okay. Never mind. Well, let me ask something in your wheelhouse. Can the Knicks offense stay afloat with either a compromised Karl Anthony Towns or no Towns at all?
I mean, a compromised Anthony Towns probably does a lot more shooting from the perimeter, which, in terms of what he does, which is, pull out a big and maybe, mess up their defense a little bit. I can still see him being able to put up shots. I can still see him making shots, maybe even just posting up as a decoy. I can see it like
it's not a decoy. What he says in the post-game press conference, I'll do whatever I can. I'm tiny. That's not a decoy anymore. It's a decoy if he said, I'm fine. Yeah, we did
You're not going to announce he's a decoy. You're going to say he's going to play and do whatever he can.
Who's falling for that? That's my question. Who's falling for it?
But what's the difference between decoy Karl Anthony Towns and high pressure game Karl Anthony Towns? They're probably going to look pretty similar, right? So I think they're better off with him out there, not better off with the threat of him just in street clothes. So it's not like Precious Achiuwa is going to come out here and put up 8 3-pointers in a game. So I think they absolutely need him.
Real quick before we move on to the Pacers and Cavs. The Knicks record, someone posted this the other day. They're 0-8 whenever they're on ESPN. They're 1-7 on TNT. And this seems like they're 7-1 when they're on TNT.
The last 3 seasons. Wow. Yeah.
So this seems like a pretty ridiculous, this is a nothing burger. But I will reveal to you, when I worked for the Suns, there was this awful streak that whenever Dick Stockton was calling our game, I knew we were going to lose. And I love Dick Stockton. He's a legend. Shout out to Dick Stockton. But damn, if every time Dick Stockton was calling one of our games, God damn it. I just had this feeling in the pit of my stomach. We lost every single time. All right. Moving on to the other series.
But you didn't do anything about it. You didn't ask the networks to get Dick Stockton off your games.
Assistant Director of Basketball Ops, Amin Elhassan, is going to put in a call to whoever the head of Turner Sports was at the time. The other series in the East is the Cavs and the Pacers. The Pacers might have put the nail in the proverbial coffin that they blow out the Cavs 129-109. I promise you, that's not how close the score was. They were up by 41 at one point.
Yeah, it was like you said the other day. I missed the diff in that game because I was doing math. I was like, it's a 40s, right? They're somewhere in the 40s.
They was the largest. I want to say the halftime lead was the largest halftime lead in playoff history, or somewhere in that vicinity. Cavs owner Dan Gilbert, not thrown out by anything. He said, I've been here before.
This man said this is the same thing as the 2016 finals when he had LeBron James and a slightly injured Steph Curry he was playing against. Come on. Look, there's one thing to understand. The situation is the situation. I know you know the pattern, right? You got to win game 5 and then game 6. And then game 7, okay, we know what to do. We've been there before. No, that's nonsense. What is going on here? This Cavaliers team, to me, there's a lot to say about being kind of new to this process, right? New to this high pressure situation, new to have these expectations on you. And whether it's Donovan Mitchell or Kenny Atkinson or Evan Mobley or Darius Garland, pretty much all in the same boat. Okay. And the interesting part about Donovan Mitchell, it's just sort of mind boggling, right? You think to yourself, okay, the guy who got you 48 when your other players were out, critical to the team, super important. The guy who got you 40 something, the next game still how can you blame him? So of the top 25 teams in net rating of all time,
yes,
only 2 of those teams have lost in the second round. It was the 2016 Spurs. That was LaMarcus Aldridge and I think the end of Tim Duncan. And it was the 2021 Jazz. And they had Donovan Mitchell on the team. This Cavs team, if they lose, they're down 3-1, would be the 3rd top 25 all-time net rating team to lose. And Donovan Mitchell would have been on 2 of the 3. So most people would look at that evidence and say, looter in a playoff riot doesn't really help. I don't believe that necessarily, but what is this connection
that means
here?
You. Most people, whatever people say, most people would say, that means they're saying it. And they want to put it on other people. No, here's the thing. Whatever's happened with Donovan Mitchell out there, it's in spite of his great performance, not because of his poor performance. He's 6th all-time in playoff scoring average, and he has enough playoff games at this point where it's not like small sample size. This guy does it in the playoffs. He brings it every year. And by the way, you mentioned this earlier in your answer where you said Dan Gilbert and the Cavs benefited from an injured Steph Curry in the 2016 finals. Well, guess who's injured? Donovan Mitchell. So, I mean, like that all kind of plays into why, oh, wait a second.
That was weird, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Like, how do you get injured in the halftime warm-ups with an ankle?
He rolled his ankle.
But, okay, he turned his ankle. But if he turned his ankle in a 5-point game, is he coming back for the second half? Or does he just give up on this game because the deficit was too big?
I mean, you gotta kind of see what's going on, right? Like the
Not
idea
if you're
is
down 2-1.
Well, if you sprain an ankle, you want to give it as much rest as possible. And if we're down 30 or 40 or whatever it was, why am I going to bring a hobbled Donovan Mitchell back for that? No, I need him to rest up as much as possible to get that must win for the next game. That's what it's about. Yeah, you don't want to go down 3-1. You know what you really don't want to do? You don't want to lose 4-1 because Donovan Mitchell was out completely. Yeah.
So I don't want to say this because like I don't believe in playing too many games in the regular season hurt you in the playoffs, or if that's going to be the approach, then let's just kill the regular season or shorten it or whatever. But like the Cavs pretty much, we're healthy all season long, played all season. Similar to OKC though. And OKC's not falling apart physically. I don't really give much credence to that. Do you? Like maybe they should have load managed a little bit more during the regular season, the Cavs?
No, I mean, look, these are just, Donovan Mitchell rolling his ankle is not,
right.
That's not, oh my God, he played too many games. He rolled his ankle. I mean,
same as DeAndre Hunter in his basically collision where he got injured. So,
yeah, like if these injuries had happened in the regular season and now lingered with them, that's a stronger argument.
I should probably mention Chet Holmgren missed a bunch of games for OKC, and they weren't as healthy as the Cavaliers were. But still, I don't know if giving any of those guys a break during the regular season would have changed anything. But let's move over to the Thunder then.
Yeah. Speaking of Chet Holmgren,
what they do? Thunder. They won 92-87 in Game 4. Even that series of 2 games apiece. I'm not sure. Well, first of all, we got to look at this first half scoring. It was awful. The Nuggets and Thunder both shot 6 for 44 from 3 in the first half, the worst combined 3-point percentage in a playoff half in this century. And there was a point, I was watching it at a Mother's Day thing, and there was a point where somebody in the house thought the game was on pause in the first quarter because the score would not change very often. But I don't know if you felt like this was a game that Oklahoma City absolutely stole, but felt like that to me. And it looks like that if I was a Denver Nugget right now, I'd be like, ooh, we let that one get away. Now it's really like nervous time for us.
Well, I would say the Thunder could have felt that way after Game 3. They should have won Game 3.
Okay.
And they had it in hand. And then the Denver Nuggets came back. Aaron Gordon hit another improbable kind of 3-pointer down the stretch for that one. So I think they're even, which I think is par for what we thought this series would be. We thought it would be a test of wills between these two teams, something that would go either 6 or 7 games. And it's so far.
I didn't think it would be this way. I didn't think it would be Nikola Jokic being as bad as he's been from the field. And this is why I'm wondering, like, if you're the Nuggets and you haven't seen this from Joker for multiple games in a row, like, are you crediting the OKC defense and saying, I don't know if, he's going to be able to lift us up out of this? Or do you say to yourself, it's the freaking Joker, man. Of course he'll figure it out. This is probably the longest stretch in the playoffs that he hasn't.
100% it's the defense. How can we not why do we do that? Why do we always, like, whenever someone's not doing well, we look for these metaphysical reasons why, like, oh my God, what is Mercury in retrograde? Like, no, he's playing against the best defense in the league. They've done things to make his life less comfortable. Do we expect him to overcome? Because that is the beauty of NBA playoff basketball, particularly when we talk about great teams and great players, right? Nikola Jokic is a mini computer, and he's sitting there, and now he's processing all the information that's happened over the last 2 games. And he's like, okay, next time they do this, I'm going to do this as a counter. Again, same thing for Coach Adelman and his staff. We're all looking for, what are they doing? Okay, how do we stop that? Or how do we counteract that? Or what's the changeup we throw against this fastball that they're waiting on right here? And that's the beauty of this all. But you cannot talk about his struggles and not like tip an immense cap to Oklahoma City and their defense. Jalen Williams, the big Jalen Williams, did a great job, I thought. And I just think that they've been very smart about doing this. Now, this is the part where we talk about the guys who aren't, quote unquote, on the scouting report, right? I did this interview with Steve Jones, who does a great job on the Dunker Spot podcast, which is put out by JJ Redick's podcast company with Jason Gallagher, right? And he was talking about when you get to the playoffs, like, some guys aren't on the scouting report. We don't mean that in a disrespectful way, like you don't have to worry about that guy. But if I'm playing the Denver Nuggets, everything in my scouting report is Jokic, 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 Jokic. And when we're done talking about Jokic for the majority of this, we're talking about Jamal Murray and we're talking about a little bit of Aaron Gordon. And then everyone else, we just got to like, just guard them, right? Like you have your scouting report of like, hey, shooter, leave him alone, like Michael Porter Jr. But you're not going through in-depth stuff because you just don't have the time. We have to devote our resources to stopping the main threat, and the main threat is Nikola Jokic. They are doing that now in this series. Last couple of games of this series, Oklahoma City is doing that.
I would argue a couple of teams, over the last few seasons have in the playoff series thrown their best at them and haven't gotten this result. So I still think there's a lot of, missed shots, a lot of maybe mental fatigue from all this responsibility that he has now. And so I have faith he can make some of those open shots that he was just blatantly missing.
Yes.
But obviously you're right as well. OKC's defense is pretty great.
And by the way, their defense is geared to, you're not going to get everyone else going. Right.
It's got to be you. And that's when he's missing open shots. That's what makes it critical.
Because that's his comfort zone. His comfort zone is getting everyone else involved and then attacking. And now it's kind of flipped on him.
All right, I'm going to get ahead of things and start taking off my pants now because we're going streaking. Hot streak is next.
Is that how that works? Welcome back to Oddball. And I just realized, Izzy, is that a beard? Does it just grow here and it doesn't grow anywhere else, or do you shave the rest?
I can't really grow a full beard, so I do shave a little bit of the excess around it. But yeah, it's my playoff beard, and there's no questioning a playoff beard. A playoff beard is a playoff beard. That's what it is.
All right, it is what it is, and it's time for Hot Streak. Hot Streak is presented by DraftKings. Stay tuned because you'll hear more about DraftKings and all that's to offer throughout the show. DraftKings, the crown is yours.
Oh, yeah.
All right, last week we picked Nuggets versus OKC, plus 9.5 for the Nuggets. Nuggets won that game, 121-119. That's 2 in a row. We are officially streaking. I am not wearing pants right now. Let's stay hot. Here are some games we could choose from. All right, Izzy, we got T-Wolves at Warriors. Warriors are plus 5.5. Steph Curry's making progress, but he is out on game 4. Game 3 Warriors stats. We had Jimmy Butler had 33, 7 and 7. Jonathan Kuminga came out with the 36-3 game. But of course, it wasn't enough to hold on. Despite the loss, Steve Kerr was very complimentary of Jonathan Kuminga post-game, saying he played one of the best games of his life. It was fantastic to see. You can see how necessary he is in this matchup. Just been impressed how he's handled things the last couple of weeks with the way he stayed ready, and it paid off tonight. I love it. I was like, he's so important in this matchup that doesn't include Steph Curry now. Yeah, I kind of need him.
You just glossed over the new nickname between Kuminga and Butler, didn't you?
I'm not going to say that one. No.
All right. Let's just say that putting together the first syllable of last names not always make a good duo nicknames. Do you think the Warriors can get something out of Kuminga tonight and basically salvage the series? Because Anthony Edwards said it out loud. He said, you guys are waiting for game 6 to get Wardell back. And I think everybody recognizes, the Warriors just need to win one. And then they get Wardell back, ideally in game 6, and maybe win the series.
They need, look, man, it's the thing with Kuminga is he has to be featured. It can't be come get your spot minutes here and there. So if they go into it with, hey, Jonathan, we are featuring you. You are going to come be one of our top 2 offensive weapons along with Jimmy Butler. Then I think it's a different story. Is that enough? The offense looks so constipated by the end of that game. I fear that that's not going to be good enough to beat the Wolves. I mean,
I don't think it's enough because Kuminga to me is in the same neighborhood as like what people say about Pascal Siakam. Like he carries a wallet because he's got no bag. Kuminga doesn't really have anything to go to. It's just athleticism and maybe a straight line drive. And, if the game opens up and there's some fast break opportunities, great. I do think this is a Warriors type of game. I think they probably get a little bit more shooting from some of their role players. And at the very least, keep it a 1-possession game. I think they win outright. And so I kind of want to take the Warriors plus 5.5 here.
Yeah. The problem I'm worried about is that Minnesota just beats the ever-living shit out of them.
What I haven't seen from Minnesota is a step on the neck mentality. Like they're just, that last game should have been a blowout and that they kept it close the whole time because they just weren't playing that well. Anthony Edwards not playing that well in first half. So yeah, I don't really have faith that they're going to run away with the game.
All right, Warriors plus 5.5. We'll see how it goes. Maybe the Warriors win. Maybe we get a game 6. Maybe we see Wardell again.
If the Warriors win, Mike Dunleavy Jr. is going to have himself a night because he was doing this when they weren't even winning.
Mike Dunleavy Jr.
What do you mean?
Let's stop. That's just some dude. That's just some white guy. We're doing a thing where we saw a white guy from the side profile.